So this is the first exhibition that we have done drawn from the January collection since we reopened in our new space. And Alan and January are alumni of the university. Together they built this amazing collection of American works on paper, not only prints, but also drawings. We lost Anne a few years ago, very sadly, but Alan is still very much with us and still actively collecting prints.
My late wife and I had a long passion for prints. We are collectors. I'm still collecting. But as you know, there were only 115 sets of this done, and 100 of which were for sale in 1919. My wife and I were thrilled to be able to find the set intact. And great credit to the dealer, Thomas French, who would not sell it to anyone who was going to break it up, because that's been the fate of most of these.
This particular exhibition is a single set of prints that was commissioned as a set by a man named Carl Zagrosser. To usher in the 1920s, Zagrosser commissioned 12 American artists to make prints for a portfolio. They were very different artists working in a range of styles, but all kind of approaching this moment of 1919, just on the cusp of a new decade in different ways.
We're so fortunate to add this portfolio to our collection. I can't think of a better object to show the extent of influences that artists were drawing upon as they defined printmaking in the 20th century. They wanted to rival the pictorialists, lyrical photographers who were putting their craft into competition with painting. Artists like Earl Horder and Boardman Robinson were reflecting on the ways that photography had documented the emergence of the modern city and the horrors of war.
Two in particular approach this question of what the modern moment means in very different ways. The first is a woodblock print by Rockwell Kent. So Rockwell Kent was a good friend of Carl Zagrosser. Zagrosser encouraged him to make woodblock prints. So before he knew Carl Zagrosser, he worked in different media, but this is his very first print in this medium, and it was done for this portfolio. One influence that Kent was responding to was 19th century mourning imagery, mourning. You know, you can find visual and material culture from the Victorian era that show little children chasing a butterfly or chasing a mourning dove. And those were created often to commemorate a child who had died. Kent's meaning is a little more ambiguous here, maybe allegorical, but also highly personal. So you're left with this impression of a vision that is unique to the artist, but that draws on this deep tradition of American culture in New England. So that's, you know, you have this very mystical approach by Kent, and then you could contrast that with this work over here by one of my very favorite artists, John Sloan. For this particular image, John Sloan sort of steps out of his usual milieu in the streets on the Lower East Side, and instead he's showing us the inside of a New York gallery. He's included himself here, this really handsome, strong-jawed gentleman here, and his wife, whose name was Dolly Sloan. Dolly came from a very hard life before she married John Sloan. Sloan himself was from a middle-class family, became a socialist, and decided to immerse himself in the life of the working classes. He shows her as being very intimidated in this setting. You know, she's kind of holding on to him very tentatively and looking around at all of these wealthier people who are in the gallery to buy work by artists like her husband. So a lot of John Sloan's work is about class, and it's not only about working class people, but it's about the spaces in a big city like New York, a modern city, where different classes run into one another and how uncomfortable those encounters can sometimes be. I also love that it offers us a glimpse of the kind of gallery that this portfolio would originally have been exhibited within.
I'm utterly thrilled. I mean, I was swept away this morning when I came in and the first time I saw it. And it confirmed for me what I think my wife and I knew. It really needs for posterity to be in a museum somewhere where it will be seen. It can be used for printmaking classes, all kinds of things. Seeing it now, I know this is where it belongs.